I'm very pleased to welcome Ceri Jones as today's presenter. Ceri is a freelance teacher, trainer and materials writer. She's been working in ELT since 1986 and in Spain since 1998. She's written for a number of course book series for both adults and secondary and is particularly interested in student-centered materials and activities. She writes about her experiences and her experiments on her blog Close Up. She's recently been working on Eyes Open and Uncover, the two exciting new secondary courses for Cambridge University Press. So, over to you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Alistair. Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. Could you just give us a yes in the chat box if you can hear me fine? It's really nice to see you all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And this is part 2 of a webinar that Anna Witcher gave in November at the end of last year, which was also about making videos with students. Was anybody at Anna's webinar in November? Could you just say yes if you were? You were. Rula, you were. Okay. Okay, great. Yes, some no. That's fantastic. Okay. Well, if you weren't there, Alistair, maybe you could share the link in the chat to the recording of Anna's webinar, because this webinar very much follows on from there. Anna was talking about the practicalities of setting up projects in terms of classroom management and the technical requirements. And today we're going to be looking at one project in particular and how to scaffold the project and make the most of the learning that's going on around and in and through the actual making of the video. Okay, so yes, Alistair, thank you very much for sharing that link. So as you can see in the title, we're looking at supporting and exploiting student-generated videos. So the idea being that the video obviously is a very, very important part of the whole process, but there's a lot more to it. So we're going to be looking at a simple three-part process. And this process is something that we've already written about on the blog. And again, maybe Alistair, you could share here the link there for the video worksheets. There are 3 worksheets which follow the 3 steps of the process. And we're going to go through those steps together today, but obviously there's a lot more information about that on the blog, and you can find the worksheets themselves and also the videos, 2 of which we'll be watching today, but there's also a third on a special dedicated YouTube channel. We'll be sharing that link later. Lovely, Alistair, thank you for sharing that link. That link is to the first worksheet, which ties in with step 1, and from that link you can then go on to step 2 and step 3, so it's probably easiest just to keep hold of that one link. Okay, so I think the process is fairly transparent, fairly simple there, and obviously we're going to look at step 1 first. So step 1 is modeling, and there are 2, if not 3 things going on here really. Is when we work with developing speaking skills or developing writing skills, then we know the importance of a model. But also when we're working with a project or asking our students to actually create some kind of end product, we also need to give models. With our students now, and I'm talking here about teenagers. It can also work with adults, of course, but here we're going to be concentrating more on working with secondary school students and teenagers. Video genres are such a rich world for them already, that models are something that they already are very, very familiar with. So when I kick off with step one. Before we look at any models, specific models of student videos, first of all, we explore the kind of videos that the students are already watching, specifically the kind of short videos that they're watching on YouTube. Okay, and so we kick off by exploring the video genres that my students, in this case our students, are interested in and the ones that they're watching regularly, because these are the ones that will give them the strongest model when they come to structuring their own project. So if you could just think about your students, what kind of video genres do they watch most, do you think? Have you ever asked them this? Do you know the answer to the question? So if you could just type some answers in the chat box. Ruler, you're saying video clips. Yeah, what kind of video clips? Can we? Pranks, Paolo. Yes, pranks. Absolutely, that's a favourite of possibly more of the boys, but also the girls. Music videos. Eleni, you're saying comedy. By that, I guess you mean sketches or parodies. Yeah, songs, music. Music is absolutely the top genre which is watched on YouTube, but maybe music videos and music clips aren't actually the most useful for us to be thinking about in this context. We want to think more about video clips which are made by amateur video makers as opposed to professional video makers. So we've got vlogs, for example. Philippa, yes, absolutely. Are you all familiar with the term vlog? If you can see that in the text box, Philippa had offered vlogs where we have YouTubers, you know, sort of today, if you ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, they used to want to be football players or singers, but now most kids want to be YouTube vloggers. And this is like, you know, the big celebrity now for the teenagers. And so a vlog is when they basically talk about their own lives and film short clips of themselves, either talking to camera or walking around with their cameras and talking about their day-to-day life. So this is something that a lot of teenagers are watching. Okay, so we have drama series and advertisements. These are all genres as well, but these are more kind of the genres of professional production. The genres that I want to access when we're talking about this in the classroom is the short videos that are being uploaded by amateurs, by individuals, not by production companies. So yes, instructions, recipes, how to, these are definitely the kind of genres that we know that our students are watching and enjoying, and these are the ones that they will then be able to copy themselves because they have a very, very clear idea of them. Okay, so we usually kick off the video project by talking about videos in general, okay, and the kind of video genres that students like to watch. And I'd like to share a video with you. And this video is actually a presentation that my daughter put together on her favorite YouTube genres. Okay, so Alistair, if we could share this very short presentation where my daughter will tell you about her top genres. In the chat box, just mark down those genres as you hear them. Thanks.
Today I'm going to show you the types of videos I like to watch on YouTube. The first one is challenges. It's where they do, like, they try and eat something in little time, or they're trying things without knowing what they are. Makeup tutorials, which I don't wear makeup, but I just like seeing what people do their makeup and how they do it. Skits and sketches, just because they're funny and fun, aren't they? Day in my life videos, because you either are watching people that you think are interesting in their lives, or they've got cute dogs or cats, or babies or little kids, or because you relate to theirs. And of course there's lots more that I like, but I don't have much time, do I?
I'm going to wait a few seconds. Okay, I know sometimes there's a bit of a lag. I hope the video has finished for you. And I'm just stopping Anna there, and we can close the video. Thank you, Alistair. So what genres did she mention? Which were her favorite genres? Vlogs, Ruler, yeah. Challenges. So the challenges are that two or three people get together and they challenge each other to do something. Tutorials that you've already mentioned, skits and sketches that you've already mentioned. Day in my life is a typical kind of vlog. And actually the little video that that my daughter put together, and it took her approximately 3 minutes on her computer, because I actually asked her if I could film her talking to me about her favorite YouTube genres, because we'd just been having a chat about it. And she said, oh, no, 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 you can't film me. You can't film me. I don't want to be on camera. And this is something which is quite a common problem with videoing with some students, is that they're camera shy. But she said, I'll put a slideshow together. And so she very quickly opened up her PowerPoint and made the little slideshow that you saw. And then basically I was holding my phone onto the screen as she spoke behind it. So it was very, very low production video, as you saw. But this is also something that the students could use as a genre, because they could talk about something that they do without actually featuring themselves, but showing the images that they've created instead. Okay, so why is it important then to start off with these videos? Well, because basically these videos create or offer frameworks and templates for the students, which they then are going to be able to use in their own video projects. These video clips that they're watching, they're short, which is really important. Anna stressed this in her webinar as well. A time limit is good, and keeping videos short makes it much easier to share the video later with the class. So taking short video clips from real life, taking video clips from the students' own lives and experiences and preferences, this gives a really, really strong context then for them to be able to build their own projects. Okay, so we'll move on to the next step. Having explored the various video genres, sorry, okay. Oh, no, we go back. Okay, so having explored the various video genres that exist out there on YouTube, we actually look at some examples of student-made videos. Okay, and in this case, we're going to look at two videos that were made by lower secondary school students in Madrid, in Spain. As you watch, I'd like you to just think about what's the genre that the students here are taking as their template, as their framework. And if you were working with these students, what questions would you like to ask the students about their video? Okay, so as the video is playing, please feel free to share your thoughts about the genre and about the kinds of questions that you would like to ask in the chat box. Okay, so yes, Alistair, thank you. Can we have the first video?
Hello, my name is Begoña.
Hello, my name is Gadea.
Hello, my name is Marta. And we are going to explain you how to make a Spanish omelette.
Ingredients are 1 onion, 4 eggs, 4 potatoes, a pinch of salt, and some oil.
First, we have to peel the potatoes. When we peel all the potatoes, we start to slide them.
When we finish to slice them, we have to put the potato in a pan with the onion.
Then we have to cut the potatoes.
When everything is cooked, we drain them.
Then we have to break all the eggs. Then we have to whisk them. Here we have all the potatoes and we are going to add them to the egg.
And then we mix them.
When we mix them, we have to add to the pan. When the first part of the omelette is cooked, we have to turn it. And we turn it again. And the Spanish omelette, it's do it!
Lovely, thank you, Alistair. Okay, I was just waiting a few seconds there to make sure that the video had finished for you. So obviously the genre was a how-to tutorial. And as I was saying in the chat box, this is the #1 favorite with students because they find it incredibly easy to structure. Basically because it's following steps of the process. It's very easy for them to see how they're going to put it together. And I think it was Marina was saying a question for them. Did they enjoy it? Did they? They loved it. You can see it from the giggling and the smiles. And they have like their final product is not only the video, it's also the Spanish omelette, which they were very proud of. So I'm seeing people, right, questions for the students. So what are the ingredients? How long does it take to make it? I guess the how long does it take to make it could be the video or the omelette. How many people does the omelette serve? Okay, so there's who's the video for? Who do you hope will watch it? We're going to come back to these questions later. These questions are really important when we come to making the most of the videos, so that the actual making of the video obviously is immensely important, but we give more importance to the video again by giving the students space and structure to discuss their videos afterwards and to see that people are interested in their video. And this in itself then generates a lot of language practice. So what we're going to be looking at really is the way that the videos become a reason for practicing and extending and learning more language. So it's not just the video in itself, but all of the learning that's going on around it. Okay, so there are some questions in the chat box here, which I think I'd quite like to leave until the end, if you don't mind, things about parents' authorization and all the rest of it, which are really important questions, and we'll come to those at the end. So, we're going to watch a second video. Again, the same age group, in Madrid again, a different genre. So again, in the chat box, what's the genre and what questions would you like to ask these students about their video?
de Alcalá, and it's a very famous old and tourist spot, and it's dedicated to the King Carlos III.
The famous symbol of Gambia.
Okay, thanks. I was just pausing there a moment to make sure that the video is finishing for all of you. And so here, obviously, this is a sightseeing tour or a showing your city, but it comes under the kind of a wider genre of lists, which again is a real favorite. It's very easy to structure. So it could be the five most famous places in my town, my 5 favorite things to do in my free time, 5 things you didn't know about my country. These lists again really make it easy to structure a short video clip. If you want to see either of those 2 clips again, these are the clips that we've used as the basis for the worksheets, and they're part of the culture project, where we are inviting other classes and other schools to share their videos with us using some kind of a cultural topic as the base. So in this case it was a national dish, or it was what the girls thought were the most famous monuments in Madrid, and we're inviting people to upload their students' videos. So Alistair, maybe you could share the link to the Culture Project playlist on YouTube. There we have it in the chat box, and there you'll see a third video as well. If anybody was at Ben Goldstein's webinar earlier this year on video genres and using video genres with teenagers, you will have seen the third video, which is another how-to tutorial of 2 boys teaching us how to make a house of cards. Is really well worth watching because it's got a great little comic twist at the end. So you can find that one there on the YouTube playlist. Okay, so again, questions that we can ask about the video. There are so many questions that we can ask, and the lovely thing about it is that the video makes us want to ask questions too. So for example, I can see, Denise, you'd asked the girls which language they use to prepare the task, L1 or L2. Well, I'm picking up on that question because hopefully that's something we're going to look at in more detail now, how we can actually scaffold the discussion that goes on around the task itself so that students feel confident to be able to do that in English as much as possible. Okay, so after we've watched the video clips, then obviously we discuss the clips in class, and here are 2 activities that we're suggesting on the worksheets and that I like using in class. The first one is hashtags. So I guess you're all familiar with the hashtag symbol that you can see. I'm just typing one into the box now. Or I'm not succeeding in typing one into the box. Yes, there we go, Alistair, thank you. And so here there's kind of we're bringing in, introducing a little bit of digital literacy as well, so that students are looking at how hashtags work, that what a hashtag does is it takes out kind of a key feature of the video, and how hashtags are used to publicize a video, to get more viewers. And so looking at this, we then, okay, for each video, what hashtag would you choose? And these are some examples. So the omelette hashtag could be yummy, or the Madrid tour hashtag could be icons. Do you have any more hashtags to suggest for either of the videos? I can see lots of people are typing, so I'm guessing we're going to see a whole flood of hashtags in a minute. Landmarks, nice. Spanish food, my favorites, breaking eggs. I like that one, Alistair. Yeah. Okay, so you get the idea with the hashtags. Basically, the students are taking out the key topic. Now, we're modeling this here as a way to discuss these videos, but actually this will come back full circle and the students will be adding hashtags for their own videos once they've made them. So the modeling here is not only modeling video projects and types of videos in step 1, but also modeling the tasks that we're going to be using later. Okay, in number 2 here, the features, what we're doing is we're presenting vocabulary that the students need to talk about videos. So there's 2 things going on here. Obviously the discussion, so we're getting students to speak in English about the videos, but also to introduce them to some of the features. So in this case, they'd be discussing which video contained which of these features. Okay, so any questions about that, or can I move on to the next step? No questions? I'm guessing there's no questions. Okay. So the next thing that we model here is, so we imagine that the videos that we were taking from real life are videos that are on YouTube. And obviously one of the features of watching a YouTube video is that you can comment on the video and that other people have commented and you read the comments that have been shared on the video. So we take this as a real life task and the students then write a comment to add to that video. Now these videos actually exist, they're actually online, so the students could go and add their comments to the playlist if they wanted to with these model videos that we've been watching. But obviously then when we're looking at the videos that the class has produced, then they'll be writing comments to each other in appreciation of the videos that they've seen. So again, we're modeling a real life task based on the model videos, but then we're going to revisit this real life task later on at the end of the cycle. Okay, so we've finished with the modeling step, and the modeling is really great because it gives us a chance to lay the ground, to start working with the vocabulary that we need. But now we're going to get on to what is the actual meat of the project. And here it's the preparation and the creation of the videos. So Anna, in her webinar in November, looked in detail at the actual creation. We're going to look a lot more at the preparation. Now, in this stage, the important thing is making decisions. So in the first stage, we've been discussing preferences and just activating schemata, but here we are making decisions, focusing, being more concrete about the actual project the students are going to be creating. So we go through these 5 steps, which at the end, they have their final product, okay? So the first step, ideas generation. Now again, when we're talking about writing, we're very familiar with the need for students to be able to generate ideas before they start writing. So in this case, what we're talking about is the students generating ideas before they start even planning their video project. So just thinking around the basic topic. Now in this case, it's the culture project. So we're asking students to think about their own context, their own culture. And this is the first question, as you can see, number 1 there. So asking them, and this is sometimes quite difficult for this age group, to take themselves outside the context and think about what an outsider might find interesting about where they live. So this sometimes needs some teasing out. So this first brainstorming activity is designed to do that. So I'd like you to have a look at the 3 topics there. So famous places or people, traditional food, songs or games, interesting stories or events. Think about your context. Think about where you are now, where you're teaching. And in the chat box, write 1 or 2 ideas for any one of those topics that you would think would make an interesting focus for a student video. Marina's saying free time activities. Are there any specific free time activities, Marina, where you live? Rebecca, how to make brigadeiro. Yes, perfect. They're absolutely delicious. If no one knows what a brigadeiro is, it's a Brazilian chocolate delight. I'd love to see a video showing how to make that. Ghost Stories of York. That's a lovely idea. Different sports, Paolo. I think there you'd have to think about which sports locally. Maybe it's a football team. Maybe it's a sport that's particular to your country or your city. We're getting some general ideas here like hobbies, but basically when we're working with the students, we need them to be specific, okay? So what hobbies, what sport, who are the famous people, what are the famous places? So yes, Jose, legends in the Peruvian jungle. That sounds fantastic. I'd love to see a video on legends of the Peruvian jungle, for example. Irene, heroes in your neighborhood. Okay, lovely. Now that has definitely got my curiosity going. It's like I would love to know more about that. So Paolo, yes, the ones they play. So that would be lovely if they actually could show themselves playing those sports and talking about where they do it and when they do it. And Yakumama, okay, I've got to admit there that I don't know what Yakumama is, but ceviche, yes. And again, another delicious Latin American dish, ceviche. And their rooms, wonderful. So all of these things, what we're trying to do here in step 1 is get the students thinking about things in their context that are interesting, and you've come up with some great examples here. So they're going to start off really vague and wide and big, and that doesn't help them. What we need in this brainstorming stage, if possible, is to have as many examples as possible, concrete examples, really concrete examples of the kinds of things that they could make a video about. Now in step 1, they're not making a decision yet. In step 1, we don't want them to narrow their vision at all. We want them to just fill the board or their paper or whatever with as many possible ideas as they can, because then we're going to go on to step 2, and this is where the decision making starts. Okay, so here you create the groups already that the students are going to be working in when they make their project. This is important. The group for number 1, it's the whole class and it doesn't matter who's working with who. For number 2, it's really, really important that the groups are already formed, and that is the group that's going to make the video together. So they decide from this wealth of choice that you've built up together, they decide what topic they want to use for their video. Okay, so then having decided on the topic, they also need to decide on the best video type for their topic. Okay, so if we're talking about brigadeiro, ceviche, Yorkshire pudding, it's wonderful, it's obvious. We're going to be using a how-to tutorial, okay? And that's fantastic. So the students might say, we are going to make a how-to video about brigadeiro because this type of video is really interesting and brigadeiro is delicious and everybody will want to know how to make it, for example, okay? So in this second exercise, what we're asking the students to do actually is to write a statement of intent. Okay, at this point, when they've written that sentence, and it might take us a lot of discussion to get to that sentence and a lot of modification and getting them to think it through and decide, is it possible, is it realistic? This sentence, a very simple little sentence frame, but this is their commitment to the project. This is their statement of intent. This is what they're going to do. And this is what they'll keep then as their vision for their video project. Now, it's not written in stone. If they go away and come back next lesson and say, oh, we've rethought it, we think it might be better to do something else instead, that's fine. But if they're going to change their minds, then they need to commit to another statement of intent, okay? So we start broad, we start with the brainstorming, but we try and make the brainstorming specific and useful, and at the end there must be a narrow focus, a clear narrow focus in this clear statement of intent. Okay, I can see a couple of questions there on classroom management, which I'd rather answer at the end if you don't mind, and I'm going to move on to the next step. Okay, so here, again we have that dual purpose of introducing language that the students are going to need in order to actually talk about the project and how they're going to do it, and so use English as the medium for their project, and also make some practical decisions. So you can see the list there of jobs, possible jobs that are required when putting a video together, and first of all, we talk about what each of those people does, and through getting the students to define what those people do, we're actually also feeding in the vocabulary that the students are going to need to talk about doing those jobs. Then we have the other side, of course, is making the practical decisions about who wants to do what. For example, some students really don't want to be in front of the camera, so they might want to be the camera person. Someone might already know how to use a video editing suite. They might want to be the video editor. But here it isn't a one person, one job either. It's the idea is that they can also share all of these jobs, but that they are aware of all the various different layers that are going on, and they've got the language to be able to talk about the decisions that they'll be making. Okay, so this is a second set of, let's say, secondary decisions that they're taking. Step 3, other even more practical decisions, and again there's the dual purpose here of feeding in the language that they need through discussing all of the technology that they're going to need, the camera, the apps, the software, storing stuff online, access to the internet. As they discuss all of these things, they're also practicing and expanding the vocabulary and the language they need for those kinds of discussions. Okay, so that we're preparing them to be able to be autonomous in English when they're actually doing the project. Okay, there's also here another issue apart from the tech issue that we can point to, and again it's bringing in an element of digital literacy into the class, which is the question of copyright. So if the students are going to be using images or music which they're downloading from the internet to use in their projects, then they need to be aware of the issues of copyright and of using Creative Commons sources of music and images. This is very important if they're then going to share this video publicly. Okay, so, and it's also it's a great excuse, a good kind of window there opening to be able to have these kind of discussions about digital responsibilities, which again is is something that's important to do, I think, with students at this age. Okay, so moving on to the next step. Now this step is probably the one which will need the most monitoring, the most coaching. What we want here is for the students to actually plan out step by step what they're going to put in their video. And this is where they may need us to help with suggestions of structure. However, going back to step 1, when we were looking at the modeling, if they're choosing something like a how-to tutorial or a list, my 5 favorite sports, my 5 favorite places, then the structure is suggesting itself. And so this is really nice to, so if we can make sure that they're all choosing genres which are easily structured, then it makes the storyboarding so much easier. Now the storyboarding needs to be quite detailed so that they know when they start filming and then go on to editing, that they know exactly what they want to do, so that they're not having to make those decisions while filming, because then that makes things a lot slower, a lot more difficult for them. Okay. Also, if they've storyboarded, different members of the group can actually go off and film different parts of the project that they can then all bring in together. Okay, so the writing of the story, but then also they should present their storyboard to the class when they finished. So again, like we had the statement of intent, and now this is their fleshed out outline of the video. This is what they're going to do, and it actually, it's really quite good at piquing interest in the other students. It's like, oh, right, okay, I'm really interested in seeing what that's going to look like when it's actually a finished product. And everybody chips in with suggestions and helps students to expand on their thinking on the storyboard as well. And of course, it's a fantastic language activity, an immense amount of language and preparation of language going into the actual presenting of the storyboard. Okay, and so we have the final step. The students actually go out, and they might do it during class time, they might do it outside of class time. This is very much dependent on your context, your classes, your school. But it's great if it's possible to have a point where you can look with the students at the video as it's in process. Okay, so ask your students to share rough cuts with you, and then you could maybe offer suggestions for changes or improvements, or if they're stuck with something, it's much easier, it's much better to help them shape things during the process, and so that they feel that they've done the best they can. And also the discussion which is involved there in, oh, why did you do it like this? What did you want to do here? Again, it's a very, very rich communicative context. Okay, so that's step 2.5, brings us to the end of step 2. And if you want to know more about the actual practicalities, the technology involved, classroom management, how to set up these groups, what to expect, how long it's going to take, then I suggest you have a look at Anna's webinar. Alistair shared the link earlier where Anna goes through all of these issues in detail. So we're not going to go over them again right now, but if you do feel that you need more information on that side of things, then part 1, Anna's webinar, that's where you should go. Okay, so we move on to the final step. So the thing that I want to stress here is that the video is not the end. It doesn't end with the video. The learning doesn't stop there with the creation of the video. There's so much we can do to make the most of those videos and to help the students feel that the whole process was really worthwhile, and show them what they've learned, not only from the making the video, but also from a language point of view. And it also helps us teachers to justify the time that we've been investing maybe in this project, because we can actually have evidence of the language learning and language use that's been going on throughout the project. So these are 3 steps which are pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to run through them pretty quickly. Step 1, introductions. So this is how the worksheet sets it out. We have 2 example introductions which the students look at. These introductions are used as models, and then the students write their own introductions for their own videos. Now again, this is mirroring a real-life text, a real-life task, where if you do upload a video onto YouTube, or very often, you will also upload some kind of introduction to it. Or if you're publicizing your video on social media, then you might have this little introduction which is there as a hook. It's to reel people in, to get people to view your video, because if you've made a video, it's because you want someone to see it. And if you're a YouTuber, you want more clicks on the likes and you want more views for your video. So we're taking this kind of real life task, and then the students apply it to their own video clip. And if you look at the very last instruction there, make it sound interesting so people will want to watch it. So there's this awareness of a readership, that you are writing for a very real purpose. A second step, and a second thing that we can do afterwards, is going back to those questions that you were writing as you were watching the students' videos, is to discuss the process. So to get the students to work in groups and think about how they made their video. Now they can work within their own groups first and then share with other groups. This discussion can take place after all of the videos have been shown to the class, or before. There are arguments for both. Watching the videos first and then asking the questions is good, because there's a context for the questions, but asking the questions first and then watching the videos is interesting too, because it kind of, again, it piques an interest, it piques curiosity to see what exactly was the end product of this process. So here are some suggested questions. These are the questions on the worksheet, but again, a lot of the questions that you are asking as well. You can see that these are more general questions also about what did they learn during the process, what was difficult, what was enjoyable. These are very generic questions that can be used for any kind of video. And finally, this is peer feedback, peer responses to the videos. So going back again to step 1, writing a comment. And so the students write comments for each other's videos. They can ask more questions. And of course, there's the whole question of sharing the video. The students have put up in so much work to making these videos that it's great to be able to share and to give them an audience. Okay, so these are all things that we can, the steps here aren't so, the sequence of the steps here isn't so solid. You can choose how and when and what and where to do all of these things. But the important thing is that there is plenty of discussion and value given to these videos after they've been made. So it's not just the video's made and then forgotten. No, the video's made and then we really exploit the language that's going on around it. Okay, so that's it. That was a quick run through the 3 worksheets that you can find online and the 3 videos that go with them. And now it's over to you and any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Ceri, and thank you for everyone who's put a question in already. And please type your questions into the chat and we'll ask as many as we possibly can. Rula Arampetsika asked how long it took the students to create I think it was the omelette video.
Okay, so the students created the omelette video, I think, in an afternoon at one of the students' houses, because that's the way they were doing it. They were setting up the project in class and then the groups were meeting up outside class. They were all at the same secondary school together. They were already used to working in these kind of work groups outside of class, doing projects which extended their classwork. So that was what fitted well with that particular context. The how-to tutorials are generally quite easy and quick to make. I think the Madrid tour obviously took longer because the filming needed to be done in various different locations. But again, I think the girls did that over a weekend. And again, these were pretty autonomous groups.
Okay, thank you. That leads into another question from Rula, which is how much time would you recommend investing in the whole project so that you can make the most of it without the project getting perhaps dull for participants?
Okay, so I think that you need to know your own classes. With classes that are used to working with project work, I think we can expand the time more. With classes that are new to project work, I think it's good to make it short and sweet. So maybe it could actually take place in maybe 3 lessons, and possibly spaced over time, or if you wanted to blitz them, as it were, and have 3 consecutive lessons, that could work as well. If you're working with classes that are with you for a couple of hours a day, you might actually take I'm thinking of an intensive summer course or something. You could take a morning and make a project. It all depends on the scope of the project, really. So if you can encourage them to go for something which is quick and simple and easy to make, so for example, the little presentation of YouTube genres at the beginning of the webinar by my daughter, which she made in literally 3 minutes, that will take very little classroom time to actually make. And if the students are using their phones, then it really is very simple. So the actual video itself might be very short and simple, but it still allows for all of the discussion that's going on around it.
Okay, thank you. A question now from Denise Tamkin, who asks about what's necessary in terms of getting parents' authorization.
Yes, it's always necessary to get parental authorization for any students certainly under 18 in my context. I don't know in other contexts. But you can get around this by the students making videos which they don't actually appear in. Although again, I think it's always great with younger students, with teenagers, that the parents actually know what the students are making, because that actually helps validate the project, that the parents are seeing them as well. So I think it's always good practice to make sure that the parents are aware of what's going on and that they've given their permission. Permission has been given, for example, obviously, to share the ones that we've been looking at today. And if anyone was at my webinar earlier this year when we were looking at very short student video projects, mini projects in class, again, there I had made sure that I had the permission of the students' parents. Even though the students there were 17, I still needed permission.
Okay, thanks. Question from Philippa Malinois, who asks, how do you and the students review the learning outcomes after the project?
Well, there's lots of ways. It depends to what extent you need, I guess, to review the outcomes. But one way is by getting the students to write a report of the process that they went through and the final video that they made, using the discussion questions, for example. And that's a great way then to be able to possibly even have a checklist of the vocabulary sets that were introduced, of language features that are being used, or of maybe how-to statements. I think it would be very easy to draw up a checklist of that kind. I'm not sure if that's answering your question, Philippa.
Okay, thanks. Got a couple of questions.
Maybe in an interview.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry. I've got a couple of questions from Katerina Baroth and Jose Villagomez, who ask how long the video should take, how long the video should last when being played, and perhaps even more pertinently, how do you actually limit the students to make sure they keep to that those limits?
Okay, well, we're suggesting for the culture project, for example, it should be 2 minutes, and I think that in order to be able to screen all of the videos in class and usefully hold a whole class discussion and a whole class viewing of each one of the videos is really important that they're not longer than 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, we do lose interest. I mean, there is that YouTube generation attention span thing that we don't want to watch a video clip that just keeps on going on and on, and actually you will lose people's interest and the curiosity factor if the video's too long. So in stage 2, when there's storyboarding, that's the time to nip things in the bud and to get the students to think about, look, it's 2 minutes, it's only 2 minutes. Maybe you can't do a list of 10 favorites. Maybe you'd better do 5 favorites or even 3 favorites, or the recipe's way too complicated. Can you cut out a couple of stages? So I think that's where we need to come in and help them to be realistic about how much they can fit into that time.
Okay, thanks. A question now from Rizwana Bari, who asks about whether you'd recommend asking learners to make their videos publicly available. I mean, are there benefits from that, or?
I think that an audience within possibly the student school community is great. Whatever that school community is, whether it's a private language school or it's a secondary school or a high school or a university faculty, if there is already a website or maybe a Facebook page or something like that, I think if the students are happy to share their videos in that kind of a space, then that's fantastic, because that really does make it a real life task, and they will get comments and they will need to write that introduction, and so it adds an extra layer, an extra dimension, which is really worthwhile. Going beyond that, that's very much up to each student. Some students already have YouTube channels, they may want to share it anyway. But I mean, the thing is that for them to be aware also of the dangers of sharing things publicly, of their own privacy, and again, maybe this whole idea of the digital literacy, how literate are our students, not about how technically minded are they can make the video, but then are they aware of what they're doing afterwards. And so these are really things that we need to discuss within each context and with each student, I think, and age groups are important too.
Thank you. One question from Rula Arampetska, who asks, how do you get the students to decide who they want to work with? I mean, do you choose groups? Or?
Again, we know our classes best, don't we? And we know whether or not we need to form the groups or whether the groups will form naturally. And so that's one thing, is what's the history in the classroom already as far as forming groups goes. The second is it really does help to have stronger and weaker language speakers, users, or more or less confident in order to be able to support each other. There's also the question of technical know-how. There will be kids in the class who do know more about editing software, about uploading files, and is really good if you can have one of these nerdy kids, shall we say, in each one of the groups too, because that really minimizes the amount of technical support that you as a teacher have to offer.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Ceri. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for in today's session. But before we go, I'd like to tell everyone about some forthcoming webinars. So I'm afraid that the webinar that was planned for next week with Laura Patsko and Rolf Tynan, where they'll be talking about ebooks, that's been postponed until July the 5th, which means that our next webinar will be on June the 7th, when Joanna Sterling will join you to discuss feedback for moving forward. You can sign up for that and for any of our future webinars on our ELT events page, which I'm just going to paste into the chat box now. Don't forget that your certificate of attendance will be sent out automatically later this week, so you really don't need to email us about that. And if you miss any webinars, we share the recordings on our YouTube channel, and we write a summary and post the recording also onto our blog. And I'm pasting that in the blog URL into the chat now. So I'd just like to thank Ceri very much for another really interesting session. I'd like to thank my colleagues Eleanor and Laura for live tweeting and answering questions in the chat. And I'd also like to thank everyone for attending. Today is actually my last webinar for Cambridge University Press. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending and for the team for being so supportive over the last few years. So thanks very much, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you, Alistair. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
Bye.
Bye.